It's also added on YouTube now. Okay, good. So we can get started. Let me share my screen. So today's topic is very simple. We are going to build a multi-step form, and we will use whatever we have learned so far, right? Just to give you a context, what we're going to do is vendor.milestone.com. Vendor or vendors? Yeah. So if you see here, it's a multi-step form, right? So we first have to, I'll go with the version test. Not again. Come on. Yeah. Okay, so we give our first name, last name, first to last, gmail.com, some password. I agree, and then click on sign, right? And then we have a multi-step process here, right? As you can see, we have like 17 steps added over here. Okay, and then we ask each question one at a time, right? So which country are you currently residing in? And then we have a drop down, we select, it goes to the next one, we select, it goes to the next one. We can see what is the highest degree of education. Then we go to the next one, right? Area of study, something, next one, select up to 7 of the subject of expertise, right? Click on next one, and then you add your translation details and so on. So there are 17 steps of registration involved. Okay. So let's understand how do we create this. Anyone wants to share, like, how do you think this can be created? What do we have to do? Anybody, any thoughts?
It's there, but not coming to the mind. It is something step one. Sorry.
You have joined for multiple systems, Manu.
Yeah,
Hello.
You can mute one of them so that it will not be
now
echoing.
I come out from my mobile now.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it is. Oh my God. You have told us step one of two of three. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So there are multiple ways of doing this. I'll probably share uh, both of them, right? So I'll create a page for this, and let's call this as register steps, right? So we'll just try to understand how this thing can be created, right? So always create a main group on any page, right? Or any reusable element. And then I would always name it as main, right? Because if you want to do any changes in that particular thing, you directly go to that particular group and do it, right? A lot of times what happens is we add a lot of groups in the on the page itself, right? And if you want to restrict access to unauthorized people, then you have to put conditions on all the groups, right? It's always good to create one main group and then do the conditioning, the what is it, hiding, showing, whatever it needs to be done on one particular group, right? So this is practice that I have. Group, call it a group main, then add padding of 20, 20, 20, and 20, right? And we will remove this, it opens up, and then we can also remove this, so it opens up for the entire screen. Okay, now we can have two groups, right? One on the left and one on the right. So for that, we have to make this as row and then copy paste. right? So we have two groups now, one on the left and one on the right. So this can be called as left group. This can be called as right group. Okay. Of course, we can remove or we can make this as full length. Likewise, we can make this as full. Okay. Now this can be made as a line to parent. Okay. And we can add an image element over here. Okay, which could be in the center. And I'll use some free images for now. Right. Let's go. This one might not go well with this thing, but yeah, that's fine. We can make it as aspect ratio fixed, and you can open this up. So whatever is the space that we have, it will expand until that. And on the right side, we will keep adding the steps. Okay. So we have right group. Now we have to create multiple steps, right? So I'll create each step in different groups. Right. So I'll create a group here, and this can be called group step 1. Right. Likewise, we can create multiple other groups. This can be step 2, and so on. So forth. Okay. Now, one of the things that we can do is we can just go and make these groups as number. Okay, and this can be made as 1. This can be made as number 2, right? And in the condition, we can go and put the condition saying get data from page URL. Did we do page URLs and stuff like that?
I think we discussed, but we didn't go in detail of it. I think.
Okay. So I'll quickly cover in this particular this thing itself. Okay. So basically, I'll explain again. So we are doing get data from page URL, right? So what this does is if you go to, let's say, this one, right? We have ID as parameter. So get data from page URL will always be key value pairs. Okay. So you can see here, anything after question mark will be parameters, URL parameters. Okay. So how will Bubble identify which screen to show? You can see here ID equals to begin C1, right? This is basically the ID of your application itself, right? Each application will have different IDs, unique ID. Okay. Via which Bubble understands which app are we talking about, right? So ID is C1 and then and ampersand. Ampersand tells that we are talking about the next parameter now. Okay. Next we have tab. See, tab equals to design here. If I go to workflows, then tab will become workflow. If I go to this one, tab will become backend workflows, right? If I go to this one, tab is data. If I go to this one, tab is styles. If I go to this one, then tab is plugins. If I go here, tab is settings, right? So basically what they're using URL parameters to tell what needs to be shown on the screen, right? And this is used widely across any application. So even if you go to LinkedIn, right? Okay, let's say, for example, I go to this particular user. No, they're using path parameters. But let me show you. URL parameters is used in LinkedIn as well. If I go here and let's say copy link to post, right? And I open this post. You see here we have question mark, right? After question mark, what we have is URL parameters. Okay. And what are the details that we have? UTM source. Okay. So this particular, this thing is coming from share. Okay. So when we share this particular link, LinkedIn understands that this was shared by someone. right? UTM medium is member desktop, which means we have clicked on share from the desktop, right? And then they have RCM, then they have some, what is that called? Code. Okay, I don't know what RCM stands for here, but again, all of these are parameters, right? If we go to Twitter or x.com, I'm not sure if I'm logged in. Yeah, I'm logged in with some account here. Oh, let's go home. Okay. And if I go to, let's say this one, no, this is path parameters. It's messages, explore. Okay, they're using path parameters, not really. But you can see here, I clicked some random thing. Okay. And we have URL parameter. Anything which comes after question mark is URL parameters. So Q equals to Istanbul, right? Source equals to trend click. Okay. Vertical equals to trends. So is this clear? Did we understand what is URL parameters?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I can go over here. So let's say, for example, I go to preview. I'm on the register steps page, right? And you can see debug mode equal to true. That's also a URL parameter, right? So I can add. So now they can have only one question mark and it should be at the beginning of the URL parameters. After that, if you want to add more URL parameters, then it has to be this one. So I put step equals to 1 and tails equals to false, right? And ABC equals to, let's say, 3456, right? Doesn't matter if you have some false URL parameters as well, right? It will load the page. URL parameters will not impact unless and until you have, what I say, you have a redirection because of those URL parameters, right? I'm not sure with LinkedIn. Let me try it here. ABCD equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So generally nothing happens. Okay? They will only read whatever parameters they need and check what needs to be shown. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it does not have major impact of URL parameters. Yeah, if you have seen referrals, right, where you refer somebody and they join and you will get some bonus points or some credits or something like that.
Yes.
Referral links will always have URL parameters, right? So URL parameter tells them who referred that particular user. Got it? Clear? So now what we are doing is we are going to use URL parameters to understand which step are we going to show, right? So on the right side, we have this particular step 1, right? With number is 1, and then we are going to this thing. We are going to use get data from page URL, right? We have a few things here. Let's not get into much detail into that. Okay. Let's use parameter. And here we have to understand which parameter are we reading. So let's say step. And you can mention if the type is text or number or what it is, right? It can also be one of the user data types that we have created, like user, chat, department, and so on and so forth. Okay. If you do it this way, then whatever parameter you are giving, that needs to be the unique ID of this particular record. Clear? Right now, I'm going to make it as a number. Okay. Is this group's number? If this is true, then make this visible. Right? Very simple. get step from page URL is this group's number, then this is visible. I'll put the same condition in group 2 also. Okay, and likewise, we will create 5 groups. Okay, so I'll go here. I'll make this as step 3 and change this to 3 as well. We'll go to this one, make this as 4, make this as 4. Likewise, we'll go to this tab, make this as 5, make this as 4. Okay, so now we have got 5 groups added. Firstly, let's understand how this flows, and then probably we can look into adding any, adding any input fields or something like that. Okay. I'm going to add some colors so that we can easily check out what's happening. So by default, we have to hide each of them or keep the first one and hide all the remaining ones. Okay. And because we are keeping the first one, the condition needs to be slightly different. It should be is not equal to this group's number, then hide it. Okay. Also, we can bring this to the center. Okay, because we want the group to be shown in the center of the screen. Yeah, we can also add some gaps in between these groups. So column gap of 20, let's say. So there is a gap. Okay. Now we need to have a navigation group here, right? So we will add one more group, which will for navigation. Okay, it came outside, I guess, but I have to add that inside and make it as the last one, right? And this will basically be our navigation group. And what I would probably do is increase the height by, let's say, 200. Okay, and add buttons over here. Okay, now we can keep this at the bottom of the screen by adding it this way. Make this as previous, make it label plus icon, and make it as left icon, left thing. And this can be basically with border. Let's see for something with border. Outline, right? Yeah. So this is good. And we will add one more button. Of course, we have to make this as the row. Yeah, we can get this at bottom. We can get this at the bottom. And we can make it this way. Go to this one, make it as next. Right. We also want the icon to be on the right side. Okay. And this can be the darker button that. Okay. And each of these buttons can be of the same width. Maybe like 200. It is fixed. 200 is too much. But 120. No, 150. Yeah. This can also be on. Okay. Now, this one needs to be slightly dull in color when the step, again, get data from page URL, right? Which is step which is number. Right. Is, let's say, less than 2. Right. Less than 2, it can also be hidden. Right. We don't need other thing. And this one, we can, let's say we have 5 steps now. Right. So if it is greater than, let's say, 4 or equals to 5, then this is not visible because we are not going to the next step after that. Yeah. So now what we do is we go to next, click on add workflow, and the workflow is very simple, right? We go to navigation, go to page, okay? And we need to go to the same page, current page. Okay, we do not want to go to any other page. We can add current page, or we can also mention this register page, right? Because we know that we are doing this in the register page, but current page is a good thing. Now, how do we send parameters to the URL? Is this one. Send more parameters to the page, right? Add another parameter, and we call this as step. And what we want is get data from page URL, okay, which is step number plus 1. Okay, I'll copy this. I'll go back to the design, go to previous, and add workflow and paste it over here. This is nothing but -1. Okay, now let's see how this works. So we've got this. Okay, we don't need this to be hidden. I mean, this should be hidden, but not collapse on it. Likewise, we don't need this to be collapsed on it, because next button should always be on this side and previous button over. So when I click on next, I'll remove this unwanted URL parameters. Okay, step is right now 1. When I click on next, step becomes 2, and you see the group has changed. Are you following? Right? And I click on next again, group changed. Step become 3. I click on it again, it became 4. I click on it again, it became 5, and this button is no longer being shown. Right? I click on previous, we came to step 1 again. Got it? Now, based on what are the details that you need at each step, okay, we can use that. For example, in this particular screen, the first step was the registration, where we asked them for their name, the email address, the password, and so on and so forth. Right? So I can go to this particular group and put the registration details there. Got it? Everyone clear? The next step could be asking for their, country, this thing. Okay. And the next step could be to ask them for their educational details. Yeah. Next step could be asking them for their social media details. The next step could be asking them for something else, and then winding up. Okay. So let's quickly understand how did we do it and what did we do, right? We created a group. Of course, we created main group, then we created left and right group, okay, which are put up in the row alignment. And then on the left side, we have added just one image, right? Minimum width of 320, and we have allowed it to expand until the page can grow. On the right side, we have added 5 groups and then navigation group, right? The 5 groups is made as type of content as number, and each of the group has given a number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. in the condition, we have read the URL parameter, which is called step, okay, using get data from page URL, right? And then parameter name is step and type is number, okay? And is not this group's number. For the first group, we are using is not because by default, we are going to show this. Okay, by default, we're going to show this and we are going to hide this if the number is not equals to 1. This group's number is basically 1, right? So we will use it this way. For the group 2, we will use get step from page URL is this group's number. Okay, now we can make it as this group's number or we can directly type in 2. Yeah, that's also fine. If you type in 2, then you don't need these things to be added over here, right? You can also remove this thing. The condition is if the URL is 2 or not, right? The reason why I used this to be a number and then this has 2 is so that you can keep the condition same across all the you can keep the condition same across all the groups and you can just play around with the number being changed. Okay. So this is the condition. Now we have added 2 buttons in the navigation group. Okay, one button is previous, and this is shown only if the get step from page URL is greater than 2, greater than or equals to 2, or you can hide it if it is less than 2 or equals to 1, right? And the next button will be shown by default, and it will be hidden when it goes beyond 4 because we have 5 groups, right? And so what we have to do here is also add a submit button, right? I'm not sure what could be the icon for submit. Or we can make it as just label. Okay. And here what we can do is if step URL is 5, then this is visible. Otherwise, it is hidden by default. Yeah. So we go to next, 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 and then we have submit. Right. So once they fill in all the information, what is that you want to do, that you can do when they click on submit. Okay. Now, one of the things that you have to understand is if we add any details to it. Okay, let's try to add details. So I'll put input over here, right? And let's call this as email. I'll remove the colors now because we are going to add some input details. So this will be email. And then this will be, let's say, password, right? We can also add some gap spacing of 20, maybe 15. Okay. And we can also ask for their name. Name. This is email, so we'll make it as email. This is password, so we'll make it as password. Okay. Now this is group 1, step 1. Group 2, what can we ask them? Let's say drop down. I'll add a drop down, and this will be, let's say, dynamic choice, gender. Okay. All gender, correct options, display. Okay. I'll remove the color for this one as well. Okay. Choose your gender, let's say. Okay. Now, in the third group, we can ask them for, let's say, date of birth. Okay. change color. Of course, you can add the text and all that might be required to tell the user what are we looking for and stuff like that. Select your date of birth and stuff like that, right? And you can add design wise, you can keep making like whatever changes you need and all of that. Okay. So how it works is now in the step one, you have name, email ID, and password. And when they click on next, it should act as a registration, right? So it's not just go to page 2 that needs to happen here. Okay. We also have to register the user. So sign the user up needs to happen here. Okay. And the email is coming from input emails value, right? Password is coming from input passwords value, right? And we are also updating the name, which is coming from input names value. Okay. Once this happens, then we are going to page 2. And we do not want to get them to email address and password again, right? They can come all the way until, let's say, this particular group, right? But not this group, because they have already signed in now, right? So previous button can be shown only after step 3. Okay. And next is there anyways. So let's quickly check how this works. Go to previous. IDD should be step 1. And what we can also do is when the page loads, if the user is not logged in, then take them to step 1, right? So I'll put that condition over here, which is general. Page is loaded. Current user is logged out. Okay. Then we navigate to the page, which is basically current page, and we take them to step 1. Okay. So you see that it will come to step 1 now because I'm not logged in. Right? And then I'll add my name, Ritesh, let's say Ritesh plus 1, 2, 3, 4, password, some random password. Click on next. Password is not valid. Oh, we have added some password policy here. I hope this works. Yeah. Okay. Now I'll choose the gender. Now at step 2, I have to save the gender, right? So when the next button is clicked, right? Sign the user up happens over there. And here I have to put get data from page URL. Okay. Step, which is number, is 1. If it's 1, then register the user. If it is 2, then we have to make changes to the current user. Right? We make it as current user and we want to save the gender. And gender is coming from drop down, choose your genders value. Okay. And we'll copy this particular thing from here. And then go here, make this. And if it is 2, then we are going to use this. Likewise, we're going to make the third one, which is date of birth. Right. So I'll go to this one and change it to date of birth in the database. Let's add it. User details. Let me add date of birth, which is of date, create. Let's go to this one and make this as date of birth. And this will be date, time, become is value. And this will happen if it is 3. Right. Now, you can make it even further, this thing that you will be able to click on next only. So basically we can go over here, make this as should not be empty. This should not be empty. This should not be empty, correct? So if we go here, now because I'm already logged in into system, step 1 will not be shown. I mean, this should not be empty. This should not be, right? I'll go here. I'll click on next. It will not allow me to go because I've made this as mandatory, right? So I'll have to choose one of it, click on next. Now, if you go back to the database, right? For this particular user, you see that gender has got updated. Likewise, if I go to this one and let's say this is my date of birth, I'll click on next. This would have got updated as well. Yeah. So this is how you build a multi-step registration form. Is this clear, everyone? Yeah. And this can also be made responsive. In the responsive on the mobile, this thing, you don't want this to be shown, right? So you just mention that group right side is not visible. Like we can go and check when will the responsiveness break and then hide this, right? So we can go to 768. We can see that all of this is still working fine. So we don't have to hide the image yet. Go even smaller, 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 smaller. And now it is breaking, right? So it's breaking at, what is it, 700 or so. Yeah. So we can go to this particular thing and add a condition where the width, current page width is less than or equals to, right? We have breakpoints added over here. We can use one of these breakpoints, like mobile landscape can be used, right? And this is not visible. So this can also be done. You can see that this happens like this. And now we can actually get this to center. Okay. We can use this and bring it to center. This and bring it to center. This one. Right. So you can see that if it's larger screen, then it looks like this. If it's smaller screen, then that goes hidden and then this becomes responsive. Right. Do you see that? Okay. Or you can also get this like one below the other, which we have already discussed a lot about responsiveness and stuff. Is this clear, everyone? Do you have any questions?
So I had a question.
Yeah.
So in the multi-step, the step 1, 2, 3 that we have created, there are two ways. One is you keep these steps invisible by default, and then show it only when the tab value matches. And there is the other way where you keep them visible by default, and if the tab value is not matching, then in the conditionals you make them invisible.
That can also be done.
One method faster than the other?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's just hide and show, right?
Okay, got it.
Yeah. It's just hide and show, and I have never faced any issues with speed when it comes to showing or hiding this thing, right? Of course, we can also use custom states for this. Yeah, we can also use custom states for this. Instead of putting it as URL parameters, right? We could play around with custom states to show different groups. But the problem with custom state is, now let's say, for example, the page has got refreshed, right? There is some change that I've done. and the thing, it will go back to the first step. Right? Now, if I refresh this, I'm still on the fourth step itself. Got it? So it's all about the experience that you want to give to your users. If you think that custom state is good enough, then you can use custom state. If you feel that URL parameters is a better experience for users, then you can give that as well. Right? Because a lot of times what happens is, if, for example, in this particular case, right, we have like 17 steps. Okay, and there are so many details that I have to fill out, like language, which language to which language, what is the experience, will I take the test or not, what is the translation, what is the rate for translation, if I'm doing proofreading, then what is the rate for that, hourly rate, what is the rate for hourly basis, click on save. If I want to give, what I say, the next language pair, I have to click on this one, right? Each step also has so many details in it, right? Whether I want to work over the weekends or not, and cat tools, something related to what I say, translation, right? I also have to give the experience levels here, right? Which organization, which country is it, and when did I start working here? When is the end? This thing. What was the responsibility? So I need not complete this in one step, right? I might say, oh, okay, I'll come back later and fill the remaining things. And by the time I come back, maybe there is some update which has come up, or something might happen, right? I do not want to start from scratch. Of course, I'm logged in, so logging in need not be there. But step 1, 2, 3, 4, it's already filled. The data is there, but I still have to click on next, 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 next to come to this particular level, right? So URL parameter will generally help. We didn't use the URL parameter in this case because the client didn't want us to do. Okay, they were fine with using custom states, so we use custom states in this case. Okay, you can also store the what is a step in the database, right, for a particular user, so that even if they come next time and what is it, log in, we know that this person has not completed the steps and they can continue from where they left. Does that make sense? So let me try it. I'm not sure if we have taken care of that in this particular case. For that, let's email it. I'll be logging in from the backend. I cannot show you the screen because it's a client project. But let me. Yeah, so I'm logging in as this particular user. Let's see where it takes. So you see that it is taking me to the first step, right? It's already filled in. Whatever I've filled, this is being shown here. Okay, whatever I've filled is available. That's not lost. But I still have to click on this next, 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 next until wherever I filled in. Right? But if you already know where this particular user stopped, then you can put that as URL parameter and take them directly to that step. Are you seeing the difference? Yes? Everyone? Okay. So this is about the multi-step thing that I want to share today. And the conditional logic. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Right. And I believe I also mentioned about the next 3 sessions that we're going to have. I'll repeat because I believe Imran and Vinila came a bit later. So we have 3 more sessions, everyone. Right. So one will be next session will be on workload units and optimization, which is very, very important because you want to understand what contributes to workload units in Bubble, right? So that you can optimize it and you can build a scalable app, right? So that is something that we're going to cover during the next session. And on Tuesday, so next week we will have sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I'll be held up on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So we'll have sessions on Tuesday and Thursday. And next Tuesday, we're going to have session on debugging and troubleshooting because all that we've done until now is how do we build, right? We also have to understand how do we debug, how do we troubleshoot and get a solution whenever we are facing some issues. Okay, so that is something that we're going to cover on next Tuesday. And next Thursday will be the final session, which will be final touches and app launch prep, right? How do we link the domain? How do we make the how do we send app to live? And then what are the changes that we may have to do once the app goes to live to ensure that everything is working fine and it is ready for your users to start using. Okay. So, any questions? Anybody?
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, Imran, all good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry for late because I was just having my iftar, so little bit late.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I ask you one small question related to database structure?
Yeah.
I have what we call it, 3, 4 fields for admin users, like is it the admin role, and some of the other things related to admin, maybe 4 to 5 data fields. So is it
Mm.
better to have the same in the user database, or can I make it separate as an admin data type?
Okay, so I think partial answer to this will be covered during our next session, which is workload units and optimization,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
You'll get a hint of like how can you do this,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Even after that,
Okay.
if you have question, then we will continue.
No, nothing. Because I was just thinking like every session I watch was I make some changes on my app. So today's session related to the signups and everything. So half of the thing is covered, but again I have to watch all your videos now and to make most of the changes to signups and all the user
Yeah,
profile updation and all that.
I
So
think next session is very important for you, which is
yeah, yeah,
basically data structuring and optimization,
sure.
because that's where you will actually understand how to structure the data.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I was
Yeah.
thinking I have previous session when when you said like data structure, unstructured and data structure. So I thought of having a separate data field for the admin because I have 3, 4 to 5 data field in the user section. And when I checked in the inspect the step by step, so where current user can see all the admin details. So who was the admin and admin login ID, everything was fetched there, right? So I thought
So
of
then you have to
having,
look at the privacy policy recording that we have,
yeah, yeah.
right? And
But
apply the privacy
in,
policy,
yeah,
privacy
I
rules.
applied the privacy policy, but in the privacy policy, still it shows in the red text, right? So what are the things which is hidden?
Yeah, and that will not be shown. That will be hidden, but it will not be shown.
Yeah, but user can see what are the things which is hidden. I mean, what fields are
The
hidden, right?
field name they can see.
Yeah, field name they can see. Yeah,
What will they do with field names?
yeah. No, I'm just saying. So that's okay, right?
That's okay.
Okay, okay.
It's
Thank
just
you.
the field names which are not being shown, not
Yeah,
what the content of those fields.
content of that, correct.
So that's fine.
Sure, sure. So next session will be more interesting.
Yeah, very important actually, because
Yeah,
a lot of people build on Bubble, but they
Correct.
cannot build a scalable application because of this concept missing, right?
Correct.
Uh, they did not optimize the application in a way which is scalable, and
Exactly.
yeah, so that becomes very important.
Sure.
Any other questions from anybody?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries. Most welcome. Vanilla, Aditya, Manoj, any other questions? Okay, no, says Manoj. Aditya, no. Okay. And Vanilla, do you have any questions? Okay, then cool. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope it was a helpful session. And we have 3 more sessions lined up. Please do attend and make the most of it. Thank you once again. Have a nice evening and see you on Friday.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.